Hey, Tommy, you want to intro it? You want to say, welcome to Band Together, a podcast from the Family Crest?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Band Together Live!
Except not live at all!
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
It's live for us.
Welcome to Band Together, a podcast
So we have a
from the
special
Family
guest.
Crest. We have a special guest
We got a
today.
special guest this
We
week.
have a very, very special guest. We have Tommy Siegel
What's up, Tommy?
of
What's up?
musical and comic fame.
Multiple
He's
media.
joining us today. He has, a multimedia mixed media artist. Tommy is joining us today. He's our first special guest of this season. He has an upcoming album, Another Century Wasted, out August 21st. Also, he's in the band Jukebox the Ghost and Narc Twain. However, this upcoming record is released under your name, right?
Just solo,
Just
right?
Tom.
It is. It
Solo.
It is
Solo
my first
Tommy.
record under my own name.
And then you also have a book coming out. I hope this
I
helps.
do.
October 6th.
It has helped.
It's an October surprise.
Yeah.
We'll let you know now. It has
If you-
actually helped, so.
It definitely has helped. And before we jump in, I watched last week's Band Together, and the most challenging thing I think about these Zoom-based podcasts is that because there's a delay, we always end up talking over one another. So let's try to watch each other's mouths moving.
My middle name is
Well,
Interruption.
I mean,
so I
that's
don't
about
know
the
how
first 10 minutes, and then the last 50 minutes, I'll stop talking, and you'll just talk the rest of the podcast. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. That's pretty much it.
Well, anyway,
So,
before we get
we're
started,
going to start with music picks.
yeah, let's do music picks. Tom, you want to join us for music
But
picks?
I do.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
I just want to say at the top of this, a resounding no thank you very much to Tommy and Jukebox the Ghost, because on our tour, we were introduced to the
Oh, God.
Nickelback song, There's Something in Your Mouth, which we would have never known. So that will not be on our music picks this week, but I had to call it out.
kinda
That's
wanna
so
throw it on
weird
the
that you bring
music.
that up because that's my music pick of the week.
Yes. Yes.
I knew it. All
Oh,
right.
that's right. I forgot that you guys are the ones that introduced us to that gem of a song.
Oh God. I mean
It's
that
so true.
there's multiple songs on that record, which I think is called Dark Horse.
Yes, I think you're right.
I think you're right.
That are very memorable. There's one that's like kind of an Occupy Wall Street conspiracy kind of song called It's like standing on the edge of a revolution.
They're all good. They're
anyways,
all gold.
You should check it out. It's their attempt at like an Occupy Wall Street / 9/11 conspiracy anthem.
Ooh, we haven't heard that one.
Have you heard they have a song that the music video it's like disco themed, and it sounds like if you crossed Maroon 5 and Nickelback. It's the weirdest.
I know that one.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what's the main hook. Something in your mouth. Something.
I haven't
Let's go
spent
back
that
to
much time.
Yeah, it's easier.
Okay, well, I'll
Great.
start.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, my music pick of the week is the new Miley Cyrus track, Midnight
Yeah.
Sky.
So good.
It's a banger. The video is awesome. It's a great pop song. It's what I needed. I felt like I needed a pop injection in my life.
She's
because
definitely channeling-
everything is a mess right now. And
She's definitely channeling Madonna in that video too, which is kind of cool.
yeah, she's fierce. Anyway, I'm into it. I mean, she can do no wrong in my eyes. Her voice is amazing.
It actually kind of has like a early 80s Fleetwood Mac feel to it. Like it reminds me a lot of like Tell Me Lies or Little Lies or whatever it's called. It's good.
There you go. That's my pick. I have one.
I'm gonna go, since she went with Miley Cyrus, I'm gonna go with a new artist that not a lot of people have heard of before. I think it's pronounced Dolly Parton.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna go with Jolene just because Dolly is the shit, and I saw her pop up in my feed this week for numerous political reasons because she's a baller, and was like, yeah, that song's amazing, and there it is, Jolene, Dolly Parton.
She's Miley's godmother, I
Yep.
think.
Yep, that's true.
John, you want to go?
I'll go.
right,
I'll go.
who's next?
So I might have picked this song before, like years ago, but I was listening to your record, Tommy, and this, some of the first couple tracks, we can get into that later, reminded me of St. Vincent. So I'm going to ask you later whether you're inspired by St. Vincent.
John, you and I are on the same page there.
I was just like,
I had the same thoughts.
The guitar work, I'm like, oh, St. Vincent. So I'm going to pick, what the hell's the song called? Digital Witness.
Marrow?
Digital Witness
Oh.
by St. Vincent. I'm going to go with that because that reminded me.
Good
I was
call.
reminded of that song from listening to your record. So
I'm not
That's
sure
awesome.
I even know that song.
All right.
gonna have to make a note to listen to that.
It was a single off the. I think it was like the first or second single off the record right before, or not her most recent record, but one record.
I probably
ago.
have heard it then.
Yeah, something like that.
I'm going to go with a band we played with at High Sierra Festival back in 2018. I'm going Hippocampus.
Hippocampus.
Oh,
right.
nice.
I remember them.
Their song Violet. I just remember they walked out and I was like, wow, these guys look really young. This looks like a high school band or something. And then they just started shredding. And I was like, oh, they're super good.
Yeah, those guys are really, really good.
What's the
So
song?
that's my pick.
What song?
I'm going Violet.
Violet. Gotcha.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go with
All right,
the
Tommy.
probably the only well, no, I've heard some other new music this year, but I really sank my teeth into the new Deerhoof record.
Okay.
And
Oh,
Future
interesting,
Teenage
okay.
Cave Artists is the first track of the album, which is also called Future Teenage Cave Artists. But I just think it's a great song, and it's weird because they made the album not in quarantine. They made it before, but they all live in different cities, so they made the record by email.
Oh, they postal serviced it.
So yeah, but it's weird because it's like the least gridded thing you've ever heard, so you can't imagine how they did it via email. And I don't know, like a lot of the drum tracks were just done from what is that, the photo booth, the thing on your Mac or whatever?
Yeah, photo booth.
Yeah.
No.
Really?
A lot of the drum tracks were from that, which they intended as just like scratch tracks, but then everybody played to them really well and they couldn't replace it. So half the record has photo booth drum tracks and they sound good.
Interesting. Well, they had a good mixer then.
I'm very curious.
Yeah, I mean, they self-mixed it. So it's like,
Wow.
I found it very inspiring because it's like chaotic and messy and interesting and lively, but it's also done by email. So it's just so cool to me.
That is awesome.
I will have to listen to that.
I'm also realizing that by the time this episode drops, Tommy's record will be out. So we'll just put that whole record on our playlist
Yeah.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole record's our music pick as well. A collective music pick.
So before we like jump into your record, I got to tell you, I've had so many people randomly share your cartoons. And then I'm like, oh, I know that dude. And they're always just so impressed by me. So you're basically like my guy that makes me more impressive. Like, oh yeah, I know Tommy.
you're the guy.
Yeah, Tommy.
That's awesome.
Is it weird to have dedicated so many years of your life very publicly to music, and now you're known for like you're famous for like drawing cartoons that you kind of used as a pastime when you were on the road?
Well, famous is kind of an interesting way to put it, right? Because it's like people are aware of the comics, but a lot of people don't necessarily like attach it to the name. Like I know like the Candy Heart series that I've done has like had a life of its own, but like, you know, only if I was walking around as a giant heart would someone who be like, hey, you're the Candy Heart guy. But yeah, it is weird. But it was also, you know, it was a conscious thing too. It was like I was running the band's social media and I was going like, this is so hard. Like, why is it so hard to promote music online? And part of it for me was thinking about like what is the internet made for? It's made for like 5 seconds or less visual ephemera for companies to put advertising like in between. That's essentially like what the whole internet, social internet is anyway. And so I was like, I'd always kind of been cartooning and I was like, well, what if I like try this? This seems like easier. And just as far as an internet creative thing, you know? And yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how much easier it is to promote comics online as opposed to music, which we spent 15 years grinding it out on the road.
Right.
But comics, people just want to share, which is way easier than being like, please listen to my song, we'll get micro pennies.
Yeah, exactly.
Our last episode, the one we're releasing,
it's out
did we
now.
release today? We dropped it. Was on Spotify, which is a fun topic.
Just the world of streaming in general.
Just the world of streaming in general, yeah. But
when we were on tour with you, I remember that you would do these all calls and ask people on social media to request various drawings. And we, in our bus, were all like, I wonder if Tommy is going to do one of us ever.
I remember.
And then you did, and we were so excited. And I actually went back to try to find it, and I can't find it anywhere. I'm so devastated.
Do you remember what it was,
so
though?
funny. It was like a bus, and it said like the Family Crest, and there were just like crowds of people like becoming ants because of our.
I was wondering if you guys were going to bring
them.
up that cartoon. It was just like,
everybody trying to get on the bus. I thought it was amazing.
Loved it. I thought it was so funny. It was exactly right on though, because part of the whole point of our band is that our identities are all kind of like melded so that people kind of focus on the music rather than
and there's thousands of people that play with us. So
yeah,
thousands of Family Crest.
It was great. It was a great honor. So should we do you want to talk about the music first, or do you want to talk about the book first? I leave this to you.
That was weird. I said geesh, which I think is a combination of G's and sheesh.
I see a comic.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I feel like, I grew up on like Far Side, and I would always read the comic section, and I just feel I don't know, I might be projecting, but like, what comics do you revere, and like, is Far Side one of them?
Yes. I mean, I would say that the two big ones for me growing up were Calvin and Hobbes and The Far Side.
Me too.
It's like, to me, those are like,
yep, there it is.
That's it, I mean, there's lots of other comics I love too, like, Peanuts and Pogo, and I mean, there's a lot of Doonesbury, just a lot of great comics. But Calvin and Hobbes and The Far Side are like, they're kind of in a tier all of their own. And it's also insane that they both, I don't know if you guys are about the same age as me, so I don't know if you remember, like 1995, I was obsessed with both of those comics. And I remember, they both ended the same year. And I remember devastated. And they were both still at the top of their game. So it was like one of those weird moments where like just two things I loved so much disappeared. But I respect them for doing it, because it's like they had some sense that it was sort of done for them, and so they went out while it was still amazing. And I still have the framed last Calvin and Hobbes strip.
There's a rumor that
I feel like
that Gary Larson's been cartooning a little bit.
Oh, he's back. Gary Larson's
Is he fully back?
TheFarside.com, he is publishing new digital cartoons.
Oh, wow.
Okay, well,
no,
for the
I'm going
first
to
time
leave
in
this
25
podcast
years.
right now. See y'all later.
But Bill Watterson is like the J.D. Salinger of comics. He's like
Yeah, he
disappeared
totally
from
is.
the face of the earth. No one knows what he's doing.
Yeah, they made a documentary on the fact that they were trying to figure out what he looked like, who he was.
Yeah.
And he turned
Quite
down like
interesting.
potentially like $500 million in licensing or something.
Damn.
He's like,
Yeah.
I don't really want to license stuff.
I mean, I think like most of the people that I know that grew up reading Calvin and Hobbes and Far Side when they were in like, when they were very young, seemed to be a little more intelligent, if I do say so.
Wow.
I didn't read that shit. Okay, so what are you saying about me, Liam? What
You
are
know
you
what we're saying about you, John. You know what
I
we're
think
saying.
you know what I'm saying, John. That wasn't a compliment to me. That was a dig at you.
Of course that was.
Well, I tried to even it out by
So,
also reading a lot of Beetle Bailey.
Oh, yeah. I read Garfield.
Yeah,
I
me
did.
too.
I had the Garfield comic books. I still really want the leather-bound Calvin and Hobbes set.
Yeah.
Like, really bad.
I read some Kathy.
Owen has a Calvin and Hobbes book. Owen's
I have all,
Owen's
excuse
Calvin
me,
and
I
Hobbes
have
book.
every Calvin and Hobbes book.
Okay, but the one that I remember was so beat up. I mean, I feel like you can barely open it. It's been read so
There
many
was a
times.
good like
pages
4
are
years of my
falling out.
life where I'd read that every night before bed because it was very like calming. Maybe when I was in like 12, 13, 14, something like that. I have a question for you, Tommy. Sometimes when so how many days straight did you do cartoons? Was it 500?
500, yeah.
That's gotta be.
I
always wondered,
that was a bad
The
idea.
craziest part of that, like, how did you stay so witty? Because like every comic you write is like, that's what impresses me the most, that you have all this content and you did this every day, and the subject material, it was always just extremely witty.
Well, he read Far Side. He's
Oh, there you
higher
go.
IQ.
Right,
So.
right.
Yeah, I just copied Far Sides and redrew them. No, I mean, it was weird because so I started doing it because I didn't have any ideas, because I was drawing all these comics like for the band, like essentially on social media, doing these drawing requests while we were on tour, and I kept having this thought of like, well, what do I want to draw? It'd be like if you were writing music, but your only practice doing it was somebody going like, I'd like to hear a polka song about a walrus, and you're like, okay. That's so I'd gotten really good at that sort of like, draw this, and so, but I didn't know like what I wanted to draw. So the reason I started the project is because I was like, maybe I want to draw something. I don't know. And so I don't know. It's kind of interesting to look back on, because like I thought I was out of ideas like a couple 100 days in.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I look back at those first couple 100 days, it's like I hadn't even gotten to the stuff that I think was good. Because I hadn't found my voice yet or whatever. It's like that 10,000 hours rule or whatever it is. I still feel like I'm like unqualified. Like I'm constantly hitting the boundaries of my ability, you know?
I mean, luckily you live in a time where everything's chaotic, and so there's not, you know, a loss of material when it comes to the insanity of being an American currently.
Yes.
Oh,
so
yes.
you know,
I have a question. Do you ever find it?
but
Are
it
they
really
ever
like
cathartic for you, or is?
They're like, they are, and they. That's a good question. Cathartic's an interesting word, because it's like, for at least for something online, because I don't know about you guys, but there's like a limit to the catharsis you can get by like posting something. It's like, it's nice to have a nice idea, and it's cool that, like, for example, like last week I did a comic about the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah.
And it went pretty viral, and it was on the front page of Reddit. And it was cool to see all that, but there is something about the online world where it's like you see it on the front page of Reddit and you just go like, huh, you know, and then, but then I'll like, you know, well, yeah, you just sort of, I'll go on a run and be like, now that was amazing. So I feel like I kind of like, there's this weird amount of like a limit to the kind of like physical catharsis you can get, I think, out of like online stuff. Like it's not the same thing as like playing a really awesome show. Like to me, there's still just a communal people, real life experience is always going to feel bigger. But there are these little moments where I'm like, oh, cool. Like the Washington Post like wrote about my comic, and maybe that means it had some kind of cultural impact I don't even really, you know, understand. Yeah.
Did you invent the term doom scroll?
You know, I didn't invent it, but I think I saw like one person use it at some point. I'm not sure if they even said like, they might have just said like doom surfing or something. I don't remember, but I don't think I think I helped popularize it, but I don't think I invented it.
I ask because I've seen several really random people in my Facebook feed using that term since you did that doom scroll till dawn and the Washington Post published that piece about it. And I think you've like started a whole new vernacular.
I think I helped
amazing.
like popularize it with that comic, but yeah, I'm not going to take credit for that. I'm sure if you search Twitter, there's going to be like, you know, 2,000 uses of the term doom scroll before I did that comic. So
it's such a good term.
You know, it's true. One of the things that I actually really love about your comics is, and I do think that part of the reason that people love it so much is it makes you, before quarantine and now in quarantine specifically, it makes you feel less alone, because I think a lot of people feel things they don't realize that a lot of other people are feeling and a lot of other people are going through. And so when you're reading something and you're like, that's literally how I see it in my head, it makes you feel less alone. So,
also, you say things out loud that I would never say. And it's cathartic as a reader, actually, I would say. So maybe it's less cathartic for you to post, but like, I mean, I would say that so many of these, your pieces, cartoons, comics, whatever you want to call them, are like very stirring indictments of the more grotesque aspects of like music, the music industry or politics, which are already pretty grotesque. And then you just like escalate them. I mean, you've done so many hilarious comics about like those like pads that have like vocals on them so that there's like no need for a singer anymore. Or I mean, anything about Trump.
Wasn't it like the Grammy goes to?
The best,
it was like an SPDX.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, do you ever have any fear before you post things, like about what people are gonna say or any backlash you might receive?
You know, it's funny. Like, I just keep discovering like more and more that like I guess I thought I was like someone with uniquely panicked relationship with, let's say, for example, like social media. Like I was like constantly battling with like this, I'm addicted to this thing and I hate it and I love it, and I'm like, you know, just that complicated relationship. And I didn't realize that was like everybody. And so it's been interesting to do, it's been wild to do comics about that stuff that I consider this very like almost personal thing that I'm writing about in my journal. And then I'll be like, well, that could be a funny comic. And then everyone's like, oh, that's so me. I spend every night staying up till 4 a.m. doom scrolling. I'm like, oh God. Well, I'm not that bad. But yeah, it is really interesting. I mean, I guess I'm finding that with comics, and, you know, I think that music has its way of doing this too, that like, it's like the more like emotionally naked I am, the more people seem to like it. Like it just makes me think that maybe just the things that we're not comfortable saying are just the things that everybody's not comfortable saying.
Yeah, I think part of kind of going off of what Laura said, you know, I even feel more scrutiny being in a band whenever I post anything online. Like I really think about like, should I say this? And it's to the point that it gives me so much anxiety that I just don't really, which is so counterintuitive to being in the music industry, but like I don't really use social media that often because I just find that anything, like I've seen comics that you've posted that were literally like so chill, like nothing really that you could pick apart. It was pretty like, and still people will find a way to be offended, or and you end up with these giant like fights about nothing other than like the two people fighting's egos and like trying to like make someone look bad, and you can't even have a conversation that way because it's all about your ego. And so it's really nice to see your stuff because I'm like, well, I'll let Tommy deal with it. And I don't have to, he'll say what I want to say. And then I'll just,
you can repost.
I can just like it and be like, there you go.
Smash that
yeah.
repost.
I mean,
exactly.
I have a lot of anxiety about those things.
Do you read all your comments?
Yeah, it is. I really try not to.
Yeah.
It's a bad, it's a bad
toxic,
idea.
Right? Yeah.
I see you fighting with people in the comments, so I know you read some.
Well, you know what I'll do is I'll do this thing where like I'll post it and then an hour in, I'll jump in, I'll see if anybody's trolling it, and I'll reply to like one or two. And then that usually just sort of becomes another war unto itself that I'm not paying attention to.
That's a dangerous game to play.
It is very dangerous. I mean,
do you think
the most interesting thing to me has been, and something that I'm trying to internalize better, and like I go in and out of being good at applying this to my own life, but like, a lot of times I'll post a comic and then like go camping or something and not have my phone, and then I'll come back and there'll be like 3,000 comments of people screaming at each other. And there's something
Yeah.
really wonderful about having your phone turned off and come back to it, because then you look at it and you go like, oh, this is how meaningless that is. Like
Truly doesn't.
Like it truly didn't matter. It didn't matter Saturday when I was like hiking in the woods. I was having a great time.
Right.
You know, so it can become more than it is. And I mean, there's certain things that like still, like when I get a death threat, I'm still just like, that seems bad. But yeah, all you can do is just, you know, block people.
I wonder if Donnie has seen any of your comics about him.
Yeah, I doubt it, but mostly because he has terrible vision.
I don't know, man. That guy spends like 99% of his life online just looking at shit, and 1% of his life
It's true.
not doing anything. Yeah, so I mean, like, he probably
I gotta get
has.
that coveted Don Jr. retweet.
Yeah.
If you do some good satire, he might unwittingly repost it because
Yeah, I
he
could see him
doesn't seem to
confused.
understand that stuff very well.
Yeah, they probably just don't understand. It's like,
Actually,
there's
that's a good
Pringles
question.
guy. He's hot or something. I don't know.
I hope he sees the Pringle Man.
That's
That
a
would be
good
nice.
question, though. Like, if you had question one, what is your favorite? Like, you got a retweet and you were like, holy shit, that dude or chick retweeted me. And who would be the one person that you do not agree with, like, politically at all, that you would just be like a little bit jazzed that you know that they saw something that they didn't agree with?
I mean, the best retweet I got was definitely AOC. Like,
Yeah.
that was just so cool. And it was
Right.
cool that she, like, credited it. Like,
Yeah, that's awesome.
like that's like,
Of course she
she-
did.
right? Of
She's
course she
just
did.
the best.
She's
Very
just-
good at social media.
I was just like thinking like, her staff, they all are so cool for actually crediting the artist. You know,
Yeah.
because she didn't retweet it. Actually, I think she like screen grabbed it and then credited it, which is great. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess I'd like to be cool if like I wish that more I would love for leading Republicans to kind of see the tread on me daddy stuff that I've been doing lately.
Oh, you got to tell him.
Well, because I think that one's interesting because it like I expected to get a lot of blowback for that, and I didn't. And you know, it went viral, so it's like it hit people who it made them mad, right? But I think people genuinely found it, like pro-Trumpers generally found that one embarrassing.
They should.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Because you know, they knew that if they said anything in the comments like MAGA Trump 2020, like that people would be like, oh, tread on me, daddy, you know.
So tell us about the book. Like, how much of it is original content? Are you gonna repurpose some of your older comics? Like, what's the deal?
It's mostly
Give
just
us the
old
scoop.
Far Sides.
Just redrawn.
Oh, perfect. Good.
Yeah.
Done.
I'll
No, I
like
didn't
it.
even redraw it. It's just old
No,
Far
he
Sides.
didn't. He just copied it.
No, it's so it's kind of a mix of things. It's some new comics, it's some old comics, it's some old comics that have been redrawn. It's basically a greatest hits of the 500-day project with essays about the experience. So there's like a bunch of illustrated essays about just the experience of plunging yourself headlong into social media for 500 days and kind of like what that did to my brain. So
Yeah. You okay?
I'm
You
okay
doing
now, but it definitely like it was a lot to unpack when it was over. So it was the book was kind of like my way of like thinking through it and also kind of trying to commemorate the 500-day project. So yeah, it's sort of just a mix of illustrated essays and comics, and there's actually a fair amount about touring that you guys would appreciate.
Oh,
There's like
I love the touring ones. I think my favorite touring one you did was when you did a series of like what people think touring's like, what touring's actually like. My favorite one is the one where it's like what touring's actually like, and it's just someone standing in front of a gas station trying to go to the bathroom. It's like, yeah, that spoke to me so much. Like,
yeah, and don't you miss it so bad?
And I miss
right
it
now?
so
It's like
bad.
crazy.
I know.
Crazy.
It's so true. I mean, everybody has this like romanticized idea of what it is. Like in most people's minds, we're like sitting on the bus with a pad in our hand, looking out at the scenery, writing lyrics. And in actuality, we're literally sitting on our phones, watching movies or flipping
Doom
through.
scrolling till dawn.
Doom scrolling till dawn. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Or waiting in line at a truck stop.
So your book comes out in October. Can people pre-order it?
Pre-order it. Yeah, if there's a link to do that on my website, which is tommysiegel.net, SIEGEL.
I'll grab that, put it in the description.
And we'll throw it down on our
hell yeah.
Lower third, John.
That
lower
too.
therd.
Yeah, right.
We need to click
there.
up. We need to click on the link too. You can't click the YouTube screen.
I've had a couple people. We solicited a few questions from others from our fam, our so-called fam. One of the questions I got was, do you do commissions?
Every once in a while, but I'm looking forward to book deadlines not being hanging over me constantly, because then I can actually do stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I do commissions sometimes.
I got a non-question too from one of my dearest friends. It was actually not a question, it was a comment, and it is, quote, I love the candy hearts so much. I love them so much. I look at them all the time to get cheered up, and I just love them so much.
That sounds like
there
her,
you go.
actually.
No, that's just her her rendition, her take.
I also asked.
I don't know, John.
I also
did you get
asked
any
the
others?
Discord. We have a Discord. I asked him, like I said, you were going to be on the show, and if anyone had any questions. And the main one was, what's the deal with the Pringles guy? That's the question.
Good question.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right?
Guy.
But
no, I keep wondering, like, this is what I would love to be. You were talking about someone I'd love to reach. I'd more love to be a fly on the wall for, I don't even know what company makes Pringles. It's probably like General Mills or something.
Yeah, one of the big companies, right?
Whoever does the marketing for Pringles, I know they've seen it. And I just would love to be there and watch the meeting where they discussed what to do about it. Because I'm sure they were like, do we send it to cease and desist? Like, what do we do about this?
Right.
And they decided, they were like, let's just pretend it doesn't exist and hope it goes away.
Hopefully just goes
Or they decided
away.
that it was good for them. Like, I don't know. Maybe they were like, this is good for us.
I think about Pringles.
Anything that goes viral with the face.
I get a little bit of like feeling like, I haven't had Pringles in a while. Like when I see it, even though, it's like, they are pretty sweet. They're like,
this episode of Band Together was brought to you by
Pringles.
So the best thing is in my book, there's obviously the Chip Man makes some appearances, but I couldn't say Pringles.
Right.
So I had to come up with all these creative ways to refer to him. Which was really funny to try and figure out. So he's the Pringles man. He's the stacked potato chip man. He's
that's great.
Are you going to introduce like a Cheeto love interest?
I like that. I like that a lot. I do have I actually do have a corporate mascot I've been working on exploring as a sexual icon. Which is the only other brand mascot I could think of that we never see their body. Which I won't tell you who it is, but just think about which corporate mascot you've been dying to see their body.
No, we see his body. Wait, who have we not seen their body?
Wow, you're good.
Did I nail it?
You nailed it.
Oh!
You nailed it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
wow, John, you're a genius.
I'll text you guys what I've been working on.
Nice.
Tommy, Liam McCormick from San Francisco, California wonders, why haven't you done a cartoon with you and me as Star Trek characters?
Let's do it.
I don't know who that is, but I'm just wondering.
Oh, wait.
I mean, Liam's just wondering.
Well, should we move on to the album?
Yeah.
The new solo album?
Yeah.
when
you released your first song, I think it was about a month and a half, 2 months ago, with the little video. Man, that intro, the drums, like everything, it's really complex, but I'm a sucker for like multi-rhythmic where you can hear every rhythm. And I love it. It's so awesome.
Thanks, man.
Good on you.
I think you're talking about Dog Down.
Right? That's the first single. Yeah.
Yes.
And isn't that the first track
It
too?
is.
Yeah.
Such a good start.
Thanks.
Loved it.
Thanks a
And
lot.
your classic use of cowbell that's like
Actually, I was gonna say the use of percussion in general on the record is so great, and I'm such a sucker for that I'm like all about it. But I'm wondering, like, technically, did you guys record this actually in a studio, like pre-COVID?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, what's funny is I've had the record done for a while. Like I could have put it out over a year ago.
that's usually
Yeah,
how it
right.
is.
How we went to.
But yeah, I've been tinkering away at it for, I mean, for 4 or 5 years now. So yeah, I mean, basically, so well, you guys might be interested in this because I would be curious how you guys, if you guys have like a standard process right now. But the way I was working on that record was I decided that there were rules that I had to follow for every single song. And on this record, the rule was there has to be congas.
Sick.
There has to
Bravo.
be cowbell. There are 2 guitars. They're panned right and left, and they don't play at the same time, and they don't play chords. And then the bass is telling you what the chord movement is.
That makes so much sense now that you say that.
Because that was
Yeah.
because I just wrote one song that happened to be that way, and I was like, well, now all the songs have to do that.
I just thought it was cool because, I mean, I don't know if I know that at least one of these people is you're influenced by, but I love hearing music where you hear that influence, but it doesn't sound like that person. You know what I mean? Where you can feel like what inspires you. I had definitely heard obviously some Queen references in vocal harmonies, and I heard some Elvis Costello kind of feel to some of the tracks, and actually a lot of Bowie too, which I don't know if all of our listeners know this, but you do an excellent David Bowie impression.
I can only do that one like line. As I can't do a David Bowie impression, I can only do an impression of that one line in Under Pressure. That's it.
But you do it so well. I
you
remember when we saw you guys do Hollow Queen in San Francisco, and that's the first time I heard you do it. And I was like, just completely blown away because it sounded like David Bowie.
Have to sound really old. Yeah.
I think like also just having that reverb and live sound,
Yeah.
it kind of has that sound on the record,
Totally.
It's awesome.
That's so funny.
But I get what you're saying with rules, like with the Family Crest, it's the first band that I've with recording, we almost approach it with no rules in some ways because we have because I mean we literally it's like the kitchen sink constantly, like because if we're asking all of these people to play with us and you don't know what you're walking into a room, like sometimes you'll walk in and you'll have like people that play with symphonies, and sometimes you'll have people that have just started playing an instrument. And if somebody's going to take the time to record with you, it's our job on the production end to find a place to use that in the song. And so sometimes I've had to, like, we were on the recording tour that we did, we were in I think Alexandria, and our friend Trevor showed up and he's like, I play clarinet. I haven't played for a really long time. I mostly played in high school. And I wrote a part on the spot because I wanted him to be on the record. So I had to kind of assess, like, okay, play a little, like I have to assess where, like, I've been working recently on doing some like solo-y stuff, and that has rules because of the fact that the Family Crest
I think I just figured this out. The Family Crest rule is it has to have everything. I think that's what the Family Crest only rule is.
Pretty much.
That's a rule.
If it doesn't,
well,
it has to have everything.
And speaking of influences, I appreciated listening to the Band Together episode when you guys were kind of bouncing off like high school influences, which I actually think should be like a requirement when you meet a new musician. You should be like, oh, nice to meet you. Like, what did you listen to in high school? Because you kind of get to know, it really cuts to the core of things. And it was really interesting hearing some of those influences because I hear, like, I never would have thought of, for example, A Perfect Circle. but I was like, you know what? The scale and the intensity and then a dynamic of you guys, like it's like this. It's like an alternate universe. I can hear it, but I never would have thought of it.
Yeah. I think like in high school, the two bands that were just like, if I were to claim two bands that kind of pushed in that direction that still kind of influenced the writing, it's probably A Perfect Circle and Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
Especially like Melancholy with like, he kind of has the same rule, just I'm going to do everything.
Yeah.
Like throw as much as I can.
That record
at it.
especially.
Okay,
Yeah, totally.
what bands did you listen to in high school, Tommy? Now I gotta know.
I mean, it wasn't pretty.
Oh no, it wasn't pretty for me either.
Yeah. Well, like I think like everybody else,
But
it's
it
like
was,
you
though.
start in one place and you end in another, right? In high school. So like by the end of
Yeah,
high school,
totally.
I was basically the same music listener I am now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean the beginning of high school was like I was such a big Fish head. And I mean I still go to Fish shows, so I shouldn't say that
Really?
I'm anti. I definitely still down. I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think, but I was like, it's that confusing period where you are tossed everything and you love everything. So it's like, I heard like Odelay by Beck and I was like, this is amazing, which obviously that record is amazing. And then I was also like, Bop, this is amazing. And actually,
that
Bop is amazing.
song, to be fair, is a dope
Yeah,
song.
Bop is a great song.
Yeah, Bop is actually a
It's not even a word, and it was a hit.
Yeah, but
those kids can play.
But it's that confusing period when I was like, I love Matchbox 20 so much. Matchbox 20 is my god. Beck is my god. Radiohead is my god. Like, and you don't see any distinction between them. And I kind of envy that sort of mindset because I think it's better. Like, and that first
Tommy.
Matchbox 20 record is straight fire. Let's be real.
So here's a question for you. How old are you? You're
I am 35.
30. Okay, so there's a hard line in the sand whenever I talk to people about this, most of the time. People usually either like Matchbox 20 or Third Eye Blind. There's usually not a whole lot of like crossover for some reason.
Oh, I
never got into I was a huge Third Eye Blind fan, like
Same.
obsessive. I mean,
That's like one of my first actual
both
records I bought. Like besides just buying soundtracks or like
Me too.
scores, the first real record was like the Third Eye Blind self-titled album.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, also, well, when you think about it, like, what is Matchbox 20? It's like if you took that Third Eye Blind record and you added a little Garth Brooks.
That's not that.
yeah,
That's amazing.
That's a solid way to put it. And honestly, like Matchbox 20, it's interesting to hear the transition from the 90s, like with like STP and Alice in Chains, and how there was this break, and James Hetfield, you have this breakaway from this voice, and then you have it kind of in Matchbox 20 where it's like lighter in the alternative realm. And I feel like those two things at some point converged into bro rock, and that's how we got
Creed, Nickelback, and
Creed
stuff,
and Nickelback.
Well, it's like that sad, like I feel Eddie Vedder must know on some level that he like accidentally invented like Creed.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah,
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or yeah, I mean that would be the best example.
That's the most extreme example.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but like Ben Gibbard probably knows that he accidentally invented Owl City or something too.
Right.
Yeah.
I would argue though that
too.
like Ben Gibbard, if you listen to him, he's probably the most pop punk light vocal you get in like early 2000s indie music. Like you can hear that kind of.
I was singing to you the other day some Ben Gibbard.
Yeah, Laura does a good Ben Gibbard, and she did it, and I was like, that is quite pop punk, and I never realized that his like vocal styling was like geared towards that kind of New Jersey like wah kind of thing.
Do you I mean, this conversation is just making me think of conversations I've had with other friends during this time, which is, are you guys regressing as well? Because my musical taste is definitely like I've gone back home. Like I am I'm home.
Yes, with me a little bit.
I am definitely not. I'm going so far outside. Like I am seeking music that's way outside what I usually listen to. So like I've gotten really into like J-pop.
Cool.
I've gotten really into African synth music. I've gotten really like there are so many weird, and you can find a lot of amazing music on Bandcamp based on region. So you really can like have this worldwide perspective. So I've gone the opposite direction.
I've been lucky because, you know, it's pretty common. I was reading this article and I started asking my friends just to see if this was true, that when you hit your early 30s, most people find this, that's what happens. They kind of stop looking for new stuff. I mean, when I was 19 through like 24, I was like hungry. I was always looking for new things. And when I reached like 30, I kind of started falling into like my more mellow sounding stuff and some of the older stuff I listened to from like the heyday of your musical listening, which for me was like early 2000s. And I think I would have regressed during this pandemic and started listening to that stuff. But because I do this weekly cover show on the Facebook Live and I have like themes, it's forced me to like dive into all sorts of different artists and genres. And that's really opened up a lot with my writing, specifically with my chord usage, because I'm not only trying to change the songs most of the time, or at least like approach them from a different direction. But hearing the way that chords were used in different eras, you know, like there are chords that if you play, like if you do like a barred minor chord with that lower fourth and then remove the actual minor and you just have that, that's straight up like late 90s anything, you know, and it's, you know, hearing all these different things has changed the way I wrote, but also, yeah, I've been able to listen to a lot of new things, which is, I'm lucky, I guess.
Well, it's funny, like when I was making this solo record, like I was listening to a ton of new stuff, and that's why I think it sounds the way it does, because I was like listening to a lot of Brazilian music, South American music, and Afrobeat, and just like trying to figure out how polyrhythms work. But yeah, it's like now that I'm releasing it, I'm like back home. Like, I mean, I'm wearing my Grateful Dead shirt right now, you know?
Sick.
Hey.
Nice.
It's funny that you bring that up, because we went on a honeymoon in January, and
Our last trip of our lives, probably.
Where'd you go?
Last time travel. We went to Italy, Spain, and France. We were in Paris, Barcelona.
We hit all of the COVID hot zones right
we hit all
before
the
it.
zones. Patient zero right here. But when I was out there, I was given a Brazilian record from the 60s, this bossa record, and you know, I've always loved that style of music, but for the first time I'm like, I want to try my hand at like playing this. And that's a style of music that it sounds so free and so simple, but learning those polyrhythms on the guitar is, and the weirdest thing is you'll play it and you're like, okay, I get it. But it's so confusing when you actually try to do it. But again, like that in and of itself opened up a whole lot of lines for me with like kind of what you're saying, which is like, okay, how can I use rhythms differently because of this thing? So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I feel like the thing that annoys me the most in music is when people compare our music to other artists, but I'm still gonna do that right now.
Also, I don't care.
See,
I'm just gonna do that.
Pay it forward.
Because I'm a baby solo artist, I'm just sort of like, ooh, what does it sound like? You know?
There's this band Nickelback that really
Matchbox 20.
It's not even that it sounds like anything. I just feel like I heard like I felt like I heard things in it that were akin to artists that I love. Like John said, in Another Century Wasted, I heard St. Vincent.
In terms of the guitars,
I was like,
for me,
oh,
yeah,
I could hear
the guitar riffs and stuff.
The guitars, but also some of the vocals on the chorus. Like I was like, oh, I could totally hear her actually like singing this, and I don't know, it was like really cool to listen to. Or like, I mean, we have to talk about your voice because I love your voice. It's so like smooth and like accurate and like rich. And I got in the Middleman, I definitely was like, I felt like you could be the guy from the Nationals, like brother, like
Cool.
twin brother, like Matt from the National. I hope that's a compliment because I hit his voice is
I
like
love
so
his voice.
gorgeous to me. But I was like, I don't the phrasing, something about the phrasing, the vibrato, it was so beautiful. I don't know. I loved it. I don't know. I thought the whole album was so great. I it's interesting to hear that you recorded it so long ago because I felt like so many of the themes throughout it are very, very present in my mind every day.
I was going to ask that question.
I feel like I think Days Counted hit me the hardest because it's like I feel like millennials and Gen Z are like constantly being we have these like contradicting expectations thrust upon our shoulders, like you need to be saving, you need to plan for the future, but also there's climate change, so it's like what's the point? Also we can only rent because we don't have enough wealth to like pay for a house. And it's like I felt like that was so perfectly captured in the song.
And being in a band, it changes everything.
Right.
You know, like your medium, it's so incredibly hard to actually like make any capital, even when you make capital, because you feed it all back into the band. And so like you're even in that rut even more where you're like the idea of buying a house seems so out of context to anything in my life. But I'm 35.
It's also been this narrative like our whole lives that's like the expectation, and that's the that's the barometer of success is like, do you own a house? Yes. Okay, you're successful. Do you not? Okay, no, you're a loser or whatever. But I guess I'm curious if it was like painful for you to like hash these lyrics out and record them, because some of them are really like real and
I mean
home.
What's funny is part of the reason I didn't put it out last year is one, because I was just kind of overwhelmed with like having done the 500 Days of Comics project and making that record at the same time, where I was like, I need to go sit under a tree for a year. But I also didn't want to put it out because I was like, everyone's going to think it's too negative.
Mm.
And I think what's interesting now is that it's just like, I think anybody if you've been a pessimist sort of, which, you know, I think that's one of my Achilles heels is that people can rightfully accuse me of being a pessimist or a cynic.
Sure.
But so far in 2020, you're not proven wrong often if you're thinking in that kind of way, which is bad.
Right.
But it certainly, I think the record has accidentally become something that more people can relate to. And there's some weird lyrical stuff that I noticed too, that like there's a song that talks about a plague, that I don't know, that was just weird to me. Like, why was I writing a song about a plague? And then like, not that I knew anything, it's just like, well, I mean, I'm part of Plandemic. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have said that.
You heard it here
The plague
first.
is back. Didn't they find some plague in
that's right. The
Tahoe
bubonic
or
plague
Reno
is
or
back.
something? Yeah.
But then, okay, so 20th Century is the next single I'm
plague
putting
is
out,
back.
which will be out by the time this podcast comes out, I'm sure. But the opening line is like, the days ahead are already planned, ain't it heaven sent? Don't have to work no more, but we still have to pay for rent. And I was thinking about that for 2020, and I was like, that's a little like too like I was being kind of like fanciful and like trying to be funny. And now that's where we
find
all
it
are.
so
It's so weird.
Yeah.
I find that so interesting because I assumed based on the lyrical content on this record, and was kind of jealous in this regard that I thought that you wrote this or recorded the vocals during the pandemic because they were so on point to what's going on now. I mean, I recently have been starting to dive into the writing of Act 3 now that we're about to release Act 2. And, you know, it's hard for me that there's a record that I feel lyrically would be much more relatable if I was able to drop it sooner. But because of the way that we record and how much goes into it, I know that it's a ways off, and that's heartbreaking to me. So I was like, oh, Tommy's lucky because he got to do this. But you wrote it a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago. So
I'm actually curious. There are some like biblical references, and like you refer to prayer a lot in it. And did you grow up religious, or are you just kind of evoking like religion in this way.
I mean, I was raised Jewish, so I went to Hebrew school and bar mitzvah and all that stuff. But I'm kind of just like, I've always, even with Jukebox too, I've liked to use the Bible as like a kind of source of like wordplay and imagery, just because I think a lot of it's very haunting and kind of a good like launching point. Just for images and ideas. Like the first Jukebox record has like contained in the first Jukebox record is a concept record I wrote about the Book of Revelations, but like split across a bunch of the record. But in kind of a playful way, not in a very literal way. So I like using it as like inspiration, but like hopefully not in a way where people are like, wow, this choir boy knows the Bible, He's really but yeah, I like End Days. I think that's like one of the tracks on the record where I like there's a lot of biblical references in there, and that was like there's a few, but that one I was trying to poke fun at people like a Mike Pence who is like, oh please God, please bring upon the end days, which is such a twisted way of thinking.
I totally agree with you on that subject though, because I grew up Catholic. I'm not religious anymore, but I still think that it's such the Bible to me is just a book of ideas and moral guidelines that everybody knows some form of. And so it's and a lot of different religious texts are very similar from all sorts of different cultures, so I've taken themes from the Bible, but it's for us, it's like we constantly for the first 3 years of our career, everyone thought we were a Christian band.
Really?
And then I released a song called what's this?
The River.
The River, which like the whole theme of it is like
just sounds like
an ode to baptism.
Yeah, it's literally it sounds like a baptism song. And it's literally about just like forgiveness and rebirth. And I was like, well, this is the way I want that to portray it, but it kind of backfired, and we had like a whole slew of people that were like thinking that we were a Christian band, to the point that we had people like leave our show when we I think it was the same EP, we gave it away a song.
We spoke out in support of gay marriage, and people left the show. They were so mad.
I mean, I wonder if
I
wonder if our brains have been trained to do this because of Christian rock radio stations, because they're so close to the music that like you'll be like, oh, this is U2, and then like a minute and you'll be like,
yeah,
no, it's
wait
not.
a second.
I can hear it within 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Laura's good. Whenever we drive to my parents' house, we play a game called Radio Roulette that sometimes we do in the car, where you'll just flip through channels and see what's going on. And Laura is amazing at picking up a Christian radio station.
You can usually tell.
Within like seconds. She's like, this is Christian. I'm like, no.
It's a really specific tempo,
no,
too.
It's
not. Always like a little slower than you think it should be, and like really huge major chords, just like super open. Boom.
It's a tone
like
to me.
Not a lot of reggaeton.
They use that Yeah, they use that sparkle drive pedal so that it just sounds shimmery whatever they hit. Boom,
Open
big
chords.
chords.
You know what you guys would enjoy
sounds
on your
heavenly.
next tour? You guys would enjoy on your next tour a game that Jukebox plays, and I'm sure we played it on the tour we did with you guys too. Radio Baseball, which is someone's up at bat, and if they can get the artist, it's a single.
Mhm.
Artist and song title is a double. If you add the album on top of that, it's a triple. And if you get the year of release, then it's a home run. And
that sounds fun.
And if you can't get it, it's an out. It's not a strike. It's just everything you can't get is an out.
Mhm.
But it forces you to become really good.
Who's
at
the best at that
identifying
game?
country, and like, it's really hard.
Who's the best in the band in Jukebox at that game? Like, who's your heavy hitter?
It's either me or Jesse. Ben's like the most musical person in the band, obviously, but his like cultural frame of reference is like slightly smaller. Just because he like grew up listening to classical and jazz, of which there's not a lot to identify on FM radio.
Unfortunately. Oh man. Okay, what else you got, babe?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I've talked most of this time. Do you guys have any
Well, I just wanted to
questions?
tag on with the solo album. You also just, because Jukebox just put out there's like a second single, like a second COVID single that's your song called "Getting Older." So I just wanted to plug that, talk about that for a second. I'm assuming you wrote that after this song was written like close, more recent than the solo record.
Again, I wrote, it feels appropriate for now, but I wrote that song like 6 years ago.
Oh,
probably.
Damn. Okay.
So it's a fairly old recording that we like spruced up,
okay,
because it just had been kind of hanging around for a while, and we were like, we really like this song, let's put it out. So yeah, sometimes with Jukebox, songs will hang around for, I'm sure with you guys too, like songs will hang around for a long time before they see the light of day. And like Jukebox, we're working on revamping a song that is 15 years old for our next record.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
You heard it here first.
Are those
God?
Sorry, I was going to say one last question. Ahead. Are those two singles you put out, are those leading towards an album, or are these just one-off singles?
We're not really sure.
Gotcha.
We had been working, we were probably halfway done with a record and then some when COVID hit. So we were looking forward to regrouping. These were songs from actually before those sessions that we liked and wanted to put out. So I don't even know. What's weird is I don't think these singles are going to be on the next record. Like they might be, but probably not. Because the other stuff we were working on kind of has a different vibe.
Right.
Yeah. How about you guys?
You guys I was going to say, you guys much like us, quarantine and COVID has hit the music industry real hard. We had a record that we were planning on releasing in late spring that we've had to push back because of manufacturing, because of trying to figure, you can't, the standard formula is you release a record and you tour it, because that's nowadays the only way you're going to see any capital gain from the actual album sales itself. Because, and so we had to push everything back. And it's been weird for the first time, when we were on tour with you guys, that was the first time that I ever had to cancel anything. I don't know if you remember, but like halfway through the tour, I think it was right after we played Denver, I lost my voice completely. And it was heartbreaking, because for us, it has always been hard to find bands that are willing to bring us out as a supporting band, because we're just a large band. And that was the first tour for us that we were like, this is like, we're out with a band that like has a really big fan base, and like we get along. And so having to cancel it was rough. Now I've had to cancel, 2 tours for us. I know that you guys are pushed back until November of next year, right? Is that even?
I don't know.
Is that public information?
Yeah,
we can cut it. Don't worry.
Well, everything's up in the air, right? So it's like we originally had a spring tour that got canceled. Then we had a fall tour that got canceled. Then we moved it to next spring, which then was moved to next fall. So in theory, and who knows what's going to happen? But
right. Isn't it crazy though? Like that it is. It's kind of like a year of our lives are just on hold. We were talking about this the other day, where it's like we're the first generation that in a long time that basically has to just give up a year of their lives in a lot of ways. And you could argue, well, yeah, but you could learn things and you could do things. But even for me, like my brain is not in a space that I can actually be that like extremely creative, because it's just quarantine does something weird to you,
This is like the perfect time in the conversation for me to do what I do every week, which is say, if you love music and musicians and you want to go see music in clubs, the best thing you can do is call your senators and your representatives and encourage them to support legislation that supports musicians and clubs reopening. And you should register to vote. Go to vote.org. You can check your status. You can check your mail-in ballot status.
And I'm sure there's plenty of bands that you love that you don't own their record or their t-shirt or you just haven't thrown money at them recently, do it, because everyone's on pause. Like the music industry is the entertainment industry, I should say, live entertainment industry is the last leg of this thing. We're going to be the last ones that get to go do our jobs. And so
first to close, last to reopen, baby.
Well, something I'm sure you guys have noticed too that like kind of drives me up the wall is like this sort of friendly suggestion kind of thing you'll get from like people who are in business who kind of will be like, well, just do more live streams, or just sort of like, or just release more music for streaming. And it's something that I definitely am proud of in terms of being a part of the music community, is that like I think it's filled with some of the smartest and most enterprising people in the whole country, like you guys, like just like, because if you are willing to stick it out and try to make a living in the music business, you are brave. If you can do it at any point, you're brilliant. It's a really hard business, and right now there's just no way to. I think what people don't realize is that touring was kind of the one part of the music industry that was still pretty good. In a weird way, now we can look back in the last like 20 years of live music and think about, we were kind of in a golden age. It was like festivals became popular again, concerts became something that cool people wanted to do on weekends and stand in sweaty rooms with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But that's the part of the live music, that's the part of the music industry that was working. That's the part that wasn't broken. So now it's really revealing the rest of it, which isn't so great, which is all just to say, if things come up like this, for example, the Save Our Venues thing, or, with, ways to help out your favorite musicians, it is not an easy biz to be in. There's a lot of businesses that are really bad to be in right now, but, it's getting hit really hard. And I think we don't want to complain about it on social media, and rightfully so, but, it's rough out there. So.
Well, and I would also say too, I think because of the ownership through listening to music, the way we consume it nowadays, and it's very rare, but every once in a while, either on my live stream or on someone else's live stream, or, I've seen people that are just so removed from what it is that we're providing that they don't even realize how rude they're being. Like I saw someone on a live stream that the person was talking and they were like, less talking, more music. And I was like, this is a free show that you don't have to watch, and you don't own this person. You don't have any ownership over what they're doing. They're doing it for you. And you're saying something like that. I mean, I would stress that if you're watching somebody that is doing a live show, like for free on the internet, be grateful for it and gracious with your commentary, because a lot of people, including myself, are doing it. I mean, I get out of it that I'm like that weekly thing for people that's giving them some kind of like structure, but like I'm not monetizing it. You know what I mean? Like it takes time to do it.
Well, I think also just the arts have historically gotten people through tough times. I mean, my grandpa is a child of the Depression. He talks all the time about going to see movies and how that like gave him hope and faith. And I think, people take art for granted, right? Like if everyone were to try to live a day without art, it would be literally impossible, because they'd have to remove paintings from their walls. They'd have to not listen to music. They couldn't watch movies. They couldn't watch TV. They couldn't look at books. I consider books part of the humanities, arts and humanities. Like it would be like living your life in like black and white. It would be so boring. And so I think that it's just good for people to be reminded sometimes that like, this isn't something that will last forever if we don't support each other.
Well, luckily, it
and
won't
the
last
internet's
forever.
amazing too, because it's kind of it's established this weird thing where everybody is a critic, right? Everybody feels like they're compelled to be a critic, an art critic, essentially. But the content is free, so it's just like wandering into a movie theater that's just always showing movies and being like, "Boo."
That's you need to write that comment.
So
That's
like
amazing.
I mean, the way I've tried to like embarrass people who have that kind of attitude is like, if someone is in my comments with like the comics or music or whatever, and it's just like has like a complaint. I just say, I'm issuing refunds shortly. Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
Because hopefully it just makes them take a step back and go like, oh right, like I'm actually just being a jerk.
Right.
A dick. Well, I think we're almost there. You know, before we end this, I think the most important question to ask you is another Star Trek question. And I'm doing this because I'm just tooting my own horn, but I'm hoping that I'm not the only person that noticed this. So Picard, since you brought it up, when we were watching it, I realized that he has his theme song with all, the very last phrase when you finally hear the Star Trek theme, it's played on a penny whistle. Do you understand the reference?
Of course.
I do, and I don't watch Star Trek.
Of course.
He's got it.
But I do have
I have no idea what you're talking about at all.
I've looked everywhere online and no one has mentioned this connect. Okay, John.
I wish I knew the song. I wish I knew the song. Because I just happen to have this right there.
Owen, you have homework. Your next band together is opening with Owen playing the theme from the Star Trek episode. What
I'm
the
making
Inner
a note.
Light?
This is actually happening.
So basically, okay, just a basic rundown. You're doing it. Basically, Picard gets sucked into a probe, and he lives an entire life as somebody else, and part of it is that he's convinced that he is this person because he's been in this probe for so long. But it turns out that the probe, he didn't get sent anywhere. He's just the same, he just lived 100 years in his mind to learn about this culture. But in that culture, he learns how to play this song on an instrument that they call something else that's a fucking penny whistle. So throughout the series, he's always playing his little penny whistle. And at the end of the Star Trek theme for Picard, they play the penny whistle. And I've looked everywhere online, and I can't find it in any of the nerd boards, anyone mentioning this fact, which is puzzling to me. I'm glad that Tommy got it.
I think that's because at the end of Picard, it's actually not played on a penny whistle. It's played on a piccolo.
Well, okay. I just got schooled by my flute wife. Liam out.
I guarantee you they had him
Flute
playing
wife.
the penny whistle because it's easy to play.
I'm still learning the theme.
And it's not loud as fuck.
Do it.
I keep it in my desk, and
He's
sometimes
doing
I
it.
pull it out, and I just hear my girlfriend go, "Babe, no."
No. That's good.
Well, also, before
right,
we jump
Tommy-
off, I also just want to say, like,
Yeah.
I just fucking love you guys, and I count you guys among
Aw.
like a very select handful of bands that like we've toured with that I just love the people and the music on such a fucking high level.
Thank you.
Well, that goes both
anyways,
ways, my friend.
just can't wait to see what you guys have next.
You've given us a gift. You've given us a gift of friendship, and we're giving you the gift of turning you into one of the comics that you drew of podcast. Like what podcast are we? We're kind of a mixture of like comedians all screaming over each other.
Yeah.
And like the Mark Maron one.
To be fair, there aren't too many douche band podcasts. So like maybe the douche band podcast, we've got like a small corner market for it.
Somebody who doesn't know anything about the dedication of musicians would say like, well, bands don't have podcasts because they like can't show up week to week and like get stuff done.
Oh,
I've had people tell me that in business advice.
I mean, it's to be fair, that's happened to us before. So like, I will say that they're probably right. So we got a lot going on.
Well,
all right?
I've admired that you guys have done this because this is something that Jukebox the Ghost has talked about for 5 years and never actually lifted a finger to do. So
Well, the next time we'll have the whole Jukebox clan on here because we miss all of you guys, and hopefully we'll get to see you guys live or just in person and grab some drinks, in the next 10 years.
I'm hoping in 2023, like we'll still have to wear masks. We'll still have to wear masks, but we can hang out.
Yeah, 2021, I'm still not sure. I mean, no, actually, I'm pretty sure it's going to be bad. 2022, going to be a rage.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what?
Rage.
Worst case scenario, our kids will hang out.
There
We'll
we
write
go.
it down. Okay, so buy the book,
Buy the book.
buy the record, TommySiegel.net.
His social info, because you should follow him on Instagram because it is a daily delight. We'll put it right
in the
down
description
there, John.
and
John,
our
put it
third.
down there.
John.
Boom, with a ping
He's got it.
sound.
Ping.
All right,
Thank
thanks
you so much.
Tommy.
Thanks so much, Tommy. Everybody, rate, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. We love you, and we'll
see you next time.
real soon.
Bye.
Woo!